We climbed back into the van and tried to continue to follow the area of maximum circulation, although it was no longer a tornado. Here on this photo you can see the pronounced hook shape. This is the vicinity of where the tornado had just appeared. So, with everyone back inside the SUVs, we followed the center of rotation, and once again it was heading north and we were heading north. We were slightly to the east of the storm, so this was the view out to our left, towards the west. The center of rotation would churn and swirl, and occasionally it would produce new wall clouds. But it produced no additional funnels. This was just about as close as it got to producing a funnel. But eventually we could see the storm was going to rain itself out and began moving away. We pulled over to the road and watched it retreat into the northern distance. When we pulled the vehicles over and got out, almost everyone was in a adrenaline pumped high, and very energetic and chattering, and lots of walking around and burning off excess energy, which was interesting to see. We even joked about it, giving it a name, calling it post-tornadic stress syndrome. I mentioned that almost everyone was happy to be back, and that's because we did have a van full of very unhappy people. This isn't the unhappy van. In fact, that was the van I was in, and that's my sister waving in the window. But you can see from this how dirty the SUVs got, and that amount of dirt and grime initially extended right up onto the side windows. An idea of what the back looked like. That meant that visibility from inside the SUVs was very poor. And at one point, when we first saw the tornado, this is when I had my hands out the window and shooting over the roof to catch the birth of the tornado. The folks in the van behind us apparently were so desperate for photos, which is very understandable, that they browbeat their driver into pulling over and stopping to take some shots. And as a result, they became separated from the other two vehicles in this short convoy. Let me show you some more mud pictures as with the story. And the result was that the folks in that third van never got up on the interstate where we got the best shots of the tornado. So this mud did cause a real problem for part of the group. It caused them to panic and go too soon for a static shot of the tornado, ending up missing the very best shot, which happened later. There's a certain irony there, and an example of how high things were running as the trucks were running through this very, very sticky mud. But for the most part, the mud was just an annoyance, and by the end of the trip, most of us didn't care. We ended up with it on our clothes and deep in our shoes. We did decide to use it to decorate one of the chase vehicles, renaming it our own little Tornado Intercept vehicle and giving it an appropriate logo. When we all climbed back inside, though, this is what we saw. Once again, the position of that laptop is the dot inside the circle, dead center of the screen. And you can see storms coming up from the south and slightly west of us. The tornadic storm has already passed and is now towards the top of the laptop screen. But we looked and saw this was one of a whole series of storms that basically was going to come right over us. And having seen what the previous storm had dropped, we didn't want to be sitting there just having to take whatever the storm decided to, the approaching storm decided to give us. So we headed south and actually tried to pick our way through the storm. And along the way we saw some spectacular cloud formations. Classic mammatus clouds, which are often closely associated with severe thunderstorms. These were taken from inside the moving, we were in the moving SUV, and once again the camera was held out the window, just in this case pointed up. One of the cells we started to chase further in the south had occasioned one storm chaser's report of a brief rope. Our rope being the slenderest and weakest type of tornadic funnel. And when we approached that storm, we saw this little loop, this little arc, remnant of a loop in the air. It's clearly the remnant of some kind of vortex, but whether it was the actual reported brief rope, we can't say. But in any case, it was interesting to see and kind of pretty. We saw some other spectacular cloud formations just around sunset. The sun was beginning to get low in the sky and was illuminating clouds in very attractive ways. We pulled over on this field just to watch the clouds for a while. And believe it or not, we actually got a rainbow at the end of the day. It truly seemed like the weather gods were smiling on us. We drove for a little while until we saw this formation and pulled over for more photos. There's incredible detail in the shot. The original high-resolution versions of these photos is it's jaw-dropping. It's one of the most dramatic and beautiful cloud formations I've ever seen. Well, it had been a spectacular day up to here, but believe it or not, this storm front had one more surprise for us. But I'll have to move that to the next recording, as this reached just about the maximum limits. Hope you follow along. This is Fred Lange.